Okay, I have a question for you, Clementine. It's a very simple question, but I think it'll be an interesting question to ask you. What is a woman?
I'm not going down the path of debating trans women with you.
I didn't mention trans women. I asked you what a woman is.
Okay, I'll tell you. I know that because this is your tactic. This is what you do. What is a woman? I'll tell you what a woman is.
It shouldn't be controversial.
I'll tell you what a woman is. A woman is someone who has at least at one point in her life felt scared of a man.
Sorry?
But you guys never want to talk about that.
Hang on.
You guys never want to talk about that.
So any man who's ever felt afraid of another man is a woman?
No.
What are you
talking
talking
about? Not what I'm saying.
This is exactly why you're wearing that shirt that says repeal. You should put the 19th under it. It's unbelievable. What are you talking about? A woman, anybody who has ever at one point been afraid of a man, it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Do you have an actual argument here?
Would you let me finish speaking? Or do you
how
just
long is it going to take for you to
long?
finish? How long is it going to take for you to finish?
Yes, do you really just invite people on your show to be interrupted like this?
Well, Clementine, look, with all due respect, we did do a bit of research into what you said about me in the past, so I think I'm entitled to give you...
So you already know what I think about that question, because I've written about you asking that question.
Yes, you have. In fact, you said, like, all of the big...
So why would you ask it again when you know what my answer to that is?
To enlighten the audience who have no idea what you're talking about, or me, like all of the bigots, that's me apparently, currently jumping on the transphobic shuttle to Ding Dong Station. Morgan wants you to believe this is about fairness and equality, specifically fairness and equality in women's sports. That was exactly what it was about. And the problem is, Clementine, with all due respect to you, the reality is...
I doubt it. I doubt it's coming with due respect.
I'll treat you with perfect respect, but your inability to just simply state what a woman actually is, particularly given 2 weeks ago in the UK, the Supreme Court made it very clear that a woman is a biological female. That's it. It's a scientific fact. The fact that...
Done deal. Sorry about that. That was a really long intro.
Hello.
Kept going. Hey, John. You finally made it back.
Of course.
Yeah, well, he was out for a long time. You going to share with everybody what happened?
Well, first off, we need to talk about something that just happened today. It's actually breaking news. It's about Joe Biden, and this is the truth. This isn't a joke. He's been diagnosed with, I believe, it's stage 4 cancer, prostate cancer.
Really?
Yeah.
He's pretty much falling apart.
You know, this is the only thing. People might think I'm cold-hearted, but I'm not. All I know is what he did to this country, my country, our country.
Yeah.
I want him to stay alive long enough to go to trial. I don't want him escaping. I don't care if he's going to go to the pits of hell. I want to watch him squirm and what have you. I want him to go through these courts. I want him to go through all the garbage that Trump went through, all this stuff. I want him to be
sliced and his family.
Actually, the more I think about it, it's like I almost think that Biden was kind of an innocent bystander, because you know what? During his presidency, there was, everybody's saying, who's running the country? But when people would interview him off the side and then say, well, why did you do this? And why would you do that? He would deny, even doing it or having any knowledge of doing it. And they go, well, yeah, but it's got your signature on it, like the pardons. So it was like somebody else was running things in the background. But you can blame it on him being senile and,
All right.
You go
let me throw it exactly what I believe. Let's go back to a year before he was the president. He was the vice president. And I seem to recall vividly in my mind, I still have the video of it, where he's sitting there talking with other people. Well, I told him about the $1 million or the $1 billion, whatever the figure exactly was. He said if they don't fire the guy by 6 o'clock, I'm leaving. They're not going to get their money. He was stone cold ass sober, stone cold ass everything. He was right on target. There was nothing wrong with him at that particular moment in time. He's the one that got that prosecutor taken off the case. He's the one that opened all that up. He was stone cold ass sober at that moment. So he got worse afterwards. I don't care. It's just like
Yeah,
a lot of other people.
I get it.
Somebody committed murder when they were 21 years old. So they're 65 years old in prison. Yeah, they got sent to prison for life for killing somebody. You took a life, you give a life. Point behind it is that guy anything? No. I have no mercy, especially if it's somebody that was your wife, your mother, your father, your sibling. Certain things you just have to look at. They did what they did. This wasn't that far long ago either. We're talking 5 years ago versus 3.5 to 4 years ago. So that's it. Hey, Nina.
Hey, John.
Hi,
So
Nina.
who are we talking about?
Joe Biden, he's got cancer. He's the stage 4 cancer. Prostrate.
Oh, I had not heard that.
Yeah, that just
Wow.
broke today.
Wow.
Yeah, I would like.
Gosh.
I agree with you, John. I think I would like to see him get prosecuted as well. I mean, for everything that he's done, it all
Yeah.
falls back to him, no matter what happens. He's the one that makes the final decision. So you can't tell me he didn't know.
Well,
what he was
yeah,
doing.
that's true. I mean, because he was pretty ruthless when all his faculties were here.
Yeah,
But
for
you just
years
have a
he did
tendency.
that.
You have a tendency to start feeling sorry for the guy because he just, it's, he just falling apart.
Yeah, but you know what, Dave, if it was you and you had prostate cancer and the police thought you had committed a crime, do you think they would be saying, oh, well, we won't prosecute you because
Poor
you had
Dave.
cancer?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're
They'll
right.
say, we'll give you treatment while you're in prison. That's what they'd
I
say.
was-
Yeah.
I was just telling them
Yeah,
that
right.
sometimes I kind of feel bad because we're, it's like
Yeah.
going and picking on a little kid, but no, I get it. It's just,
Yeah.
This guy was the president, Dave. I mean, he was the one that's making the final shots. He had his hand on the football. His condition, come on, really? You think I'd have mercy for somebody that didn't know what he was doing? To take care of the world and the nuclear bombs? And yet making decisions that are hurting Trump and his family?
But if we're
Actually, I
going to
know-
say that, if we're going to say he should have mercy because he's old, he's sick, he doesn't remember whatever, because he doesn't remember, he didn't even seem to remember that he was ever vice president. So, but if we're going to say that, then what we're saying is, therefore, we can go after the people who knew
That's
that
true.
he was too infirm and too sick and were doing all of these things,
Yeah.
not being elected, did not have the authority to do it, but we're doing it anyway.
And you know something else, Nina? I agree with you. And by the way, who is using the rubber stamp for all these pardons?
That's right. That's
The
right.
auto pen is illegal. They need to be done by hand.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. So obviously it wasn't him doing it, then who was? I
Yeah.
heard, well, what I understand, they caught somebody or got proof that somebody was doing it. They didn't say him or her name yet.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
like,
the-
why are they protecting them?
Yeah.
Well, right now I saw a clip a little earlier, about an hour ago, of Cash Patel and Dan Bongino. Okay. And they were talking, they more or less were telling us they're sitting in chairs and they're telling us more
for
or
the
less.
House Intelligence Committee,
Chill
and
out.
I've been on both your.
Here it is.
I got it. Sorry. I didn't mean for it to start playing.
Yeah, well, basically what they're doing
Shows in a
is
prior life, talking about it, and I'm
Go ahead, John. Finish.
no. Let her rip.
Okay.
telling you and the American public that we have now found material and information and people who wanted to hide it from the world since we got in these seats. And we, as the deputy said, we are trying to do it in a fashion where not only are we informing the American public of what happened, but we can have accountability for it. And that takes a little bit more time. And when you layer on the fact that we are rolling out our priorities on violent crime and defending the homeland, we're running a 3-part animal here, and we're going 100 miles an hour on each single one.
So important.
Wait, I want to add to that, too, because what the director's saying is right. You got to remember, we come in the morning, there's a portfolio of 100 level 10 items. If it's a level 9, which is a pretty big freaking deal, someone else fixed it. The only thing that gets to my desk or his is a level 10. That's the entire day. Look at his schedule any given day. I'll show you the palm card I have. It is filled from 7:30 to he leaves 7 at night, 6:30 at night. It's filled all day. We just can't focus on one thing. You want New York to go boom? DC to go boom? You want an OC organization to go hack into some cyber network and crack all of Fox News' holdings? We're dealing with all that stuff too. Everything's a priority. Everything's a priority. This is one of many things we did. It's not an excuse. It's just reality.
There's a lot. There is a lot. They got their hands full. As far as I think this, you know, I mean,
I think this other clip is a continuation of that, though. I don't know if I showed the right one, John.
Yeah, it pretty much that's what we needed to get out there, because
The deputy and I have been going to events all week, and the most painful part is being with the families of the fallen. But we're here to remind America that there's a consequence to the freedom that they have, and there's good men and women that keep stepping up for that fight. So, you know, it's a big deal that you're here on Police Week.
Thank you. And I saw the honor wall, and I want to walk past that with you. I unfortunately was on Wall Street on 9/11, and my heart goes out to the families who've lost their loved ones. Dan?
Yeah, 9/11. I was an agent on 9/11 with the Secret Service, and I just remember, as you probably do, from the media perspective, the chaos. Remember, nothing worked like we thought it was going to work. So the director and I, we've both been deeply inspired, obviously, as everyone in America was, by tragic, horrible incident. But I know when Cash and I are sitting there in the morning, that is the single motivating factor for us, is keep the homeland safe. That is priority number one.
And I want to ask you about that. Now, I'll go into some of the specifics. But, Director, you've said many times that the FBI has been politicized. Mm-hmm. So what are your plans to rebuild trust in this fine institution and depoliticize the FBI?
So we have a multi-part process. First of all, our priorities. Simple. Crush violent crime. Defend the homeland. Rigorous organizational accountability. And the fourth, which leads directly to your question, aggressive constitutional oversight with Congress. The way we rebuild trust is we already have the men and women here in the rank and file that signed up to be cops, that signed up to be intel analysts, that signed up to be special support staff, that want to do the work. That's why we're sending them into the field. We can talk about that later. What we need America to know is that this place was politicized, and Congress has rightfully requested the documents from Crossfire Hurricane to January 6th to the Richmond Catholic Memo and so much more. But now finally Americans are reading for themselves the documentation where a very select few leaders in the former FBI decided to politicize it. We don't need me and the deputy telling you it's politicized. We want the American people to read it, and now they are.
And I know I lived with it for you. I watched it with.
So this is kind of long-winded, but they go on to say that in 2 weeks they're going to release some stuff that's just going to be unbelievable, and they're trying. He basically said that they don't want to like tip their hat. They've got some things in the works, but right now would be wrong to release it right now. And then Bongino jumped in and said, yeah, well, we can either do it really fast and do it wrong, or we can do it and spend the time we're supposed to spend on it and do it right and get it right. Because otherwise, if we do it wrong, they're going to come back at us, and the government's going to be getting sued for this, that, and the other thing. And they just want to make sure that, they do it right the first time. So, but it's like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if they tip their hand too soon, it could mean if, as we all hope, there's some arrests going to be made. It could mean if they tip their hand too soon, some people will escape before they have a chance to arrest them. So, yeah, I'd rather see.
I totally agree.
Things go into hiding.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I agree with you, Nina. I think they're planning to make some big plans.
Andrew.
I agree with you. I think they're making big plans. They have to be. Mm-hmm. But then again, John, we were just talking about this earlier this morning.
Yeah.
God, his name again. That guy that had that island, that sex island. Huh?
Oh, Mr.
Epstein. Right. Yeah. Well, we're supposed to.
You couldn't remember that name?
Yet nothing.
Hey, I'm glad Andrew can't remember that name. I'd rather have him not remember that name than have it be, freely on his.
Well,
it's going. But anyway, I think we should hear a lot more about that island, because I think most of these politicians, and we even got some people from the high courts that are involved in this. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of people. A lot of people that's involved, So I want to see the politician list. That's the main thing I want.
One of the things that everybody seems to not put their thumb right directly on is with Epstein's Island. We're talking about, let's forget about politicians and sports figures and movie stars, the whole 9 yards of who did what, where, why. Basically, what it is these are adults that have committed pedophilia against children. In other words, children.
That's true.
Now, so far, nobody has been arrested for this. Think about this. Epstein, of course, who committed suicide, pretty, convenient trick, as we know. And other people have just been dying along the line, too, recently, too. That one woman was the main. So, in other words, they're kind of like just sending out a message. Nobody talks. But I have this feeling somewhere's down the line, because from what I understand, there's somewhere's upwards of 250 victims. Somebody, they're going to get to somebody. Yeah. I'm talking about the good guys. And the person's going to say, look, it's horrific enough for me. Here it is. Here's who did what to me. And heaven help whoever that person is. And these people know this. I mean, this is, if it's a judge, his or her career is gone. If it's somebody like the Clintons, whoever it is, their entire history is gone. Even if they fight it in courts and they don't have to end up going to jail, point behind it is they're done for. All that you have to do is be linked to one child.
That's true.
Just even abducting the child, it's over with for you forever. That's why some of these movie stars like Ellen DeGeneres and a few others have moved out of the country. They're not taking the chance. They've got the money to move, and they're out of the country. They're staying out of harm's way.
Yeah, and they can tell you it was Trump they were leaving for, but funny how they didn't leave after during the first term. Yeah.
It's the whole part. If you stop and think about this, if you live, no matter where, if you live in Kansas City, Missouri, you don't have to turn on the television. You don't have to listen to political stuff. You won't even hear Donald Trump's name in a day. So why would your day be interfered with? Now, if somebody has the TDS, Trump just whatever, that bad, then they should get the hell out of the country. Yeah. I mean, I totally believe that actually is a real, true mental disease. How can you hate somebody so bad that has not done anything wrong, has done all these right things? I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Well,
it really is.
Yeah, but that's a perspective. Yeah, but
still, I mean, some of these people they're adamant, like the screaming.
They have no idea why they hate. Some of them don't even
answer the question.
Why they hate.
Yeah.
They can't answer the question.
They just have read a lot of things ascribed to him, and maybe not even what actions were ascribed to him. Just, he's a racist. He's this. He's a homophobe. He's an Islamophobe. Yeah.
It could all just be somebody randomly talking, but then it gets put on the news, and then they all believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
it came in newsletters they got from their Democratic congressman, and surely if it's on a letterhead like that, he must be telling the truth.
Yeah,
what a lot of them think.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question for you guys, or ladies too. I'm sorry. The question is, I just recently heard, like yesterday or today, that there was 4 judges that got canned. That's fighting Trump on every move he makes. Is this true?
You mean beyond the one who got arrested for harboring the?
Yeah, the illegals.
It's kind of a separate deal. Yeah.
Yeah, because
I haven't heard anything yet.
There's a lot of them in trouble. I wonder if you guys heard anything about it.
The only thing right now that's happening is this is going to take another week or 2 more weeks. The Supreme Court's got to step in on this because once again, we've got Democrats, which are lawyers, they're taking a law and they're trying to make something that is not actually there. They're interpreting things the way that they want to interpret them, not the way they really are.
Stretching and manipulating. Yeah.
Right. In other words, I still go back to the same case with Trump. In other words, they tried to get what basically was hush money, which is legal in the state of New York. and most other states too. Something that's done all the time. You get movie stars, you get high profile people. Somebody walks up and says, "Hey, I'm gonna sue you. Say you touched me or you did this, that, and the other to me, and I'm gonna sue you." So those are some of the. What'd you do? Get rid of us, Dave?
No, accident.
You're lost. There you go.
I was typing over here and I hit something over there.
But in other words, what they're basically been doing is they're trying to get. How do I want to put this? I'm trying to use the right words without saying something that the tube does not like. If they're all right, let's go back to what I started to say. I'll pick it up from there. In other words, they took the law of hush money, and they're saying that this is paid off. And then, of course, since it was from the attorney's office, there were 34 or 32 payments made from the office. Payments made to the attorney. Well, those are payments for that. Now, even if they were illegal, it still points that those were long gone out of in other words, long gone. I mean, it's statute of limitations had been passed by over 2 years before that, so you can't use them. But yet, if they had to bootstrap a potential federal felony, then they could do it. The only thing it come up with election interference, which really didn't make much difference, because if the felony is, if you look at it in reality with law, a federal felony has to be taken care of in a federal court, not a state court. So you got two different entities there. And what the judge did was, Merchan did, he pulled a fast one. He went up to the jury. We don't know what 3 things they were told. In other words, if you think that Donald Trump did this, or this, you can say he did that, and that'll be as good as whatever. It's kind of like, excuse me? Nobody's ever heard of anything like this before. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about it. Mm-hmm. It would be like for me to say to Andrew, I'll tell you what, go down to the pizza parlor, pick up a pizza for me. And he said, then I'll tell you what, I'll give you 3 options. You can pay for it yourself. You can have your wife pay for it, or you can have somebody else pay for it. And by the time you get there, you're going to go like, wait a minute, I'm getting John free pizza and stuff like that. Why am I doing this? I mean, I gave you 3 options. It doesn't even make sense.
No.
It does not make sense. And yet it went past through. And of course, we all know that this thing is right on the edge. I believe it's going to be over with in June, possibly to July, that's going to be thrown out. But still behind it is, how did it get this far to begin with?
Yeah.
How did it get this far? It's because of corrupt system, corrupt judge, corrupt jury. I mean, and I would really like to know, because I do believe once they get Kathy Hochul out of there, they need to make that the jury panel, they need to make those names public. That was not a closed crowd. They might have been able to keep cameras out of there, but we need to know who those people's names are. And we need to find out why they did that. Were they paid off? They need to be investigated, because that is not something that's unusual. There's a lot of bad things that have been going on. And I'll tell you right now, it does not look like Hochul's going to get reelected. It does not look like that. Mm-hmm. And of course, she's got to either figure out whether she's going to dump Letitia James or not, and she's going to dump her, guaranteed on that one. It's her own political career.
Oh, Letitia James is becoming a liability.
A big liability.
Yeah, because it does look very much like, and I'm not trying to try her in the media here, but all the evidence is there in the documents. It looks very much like she committed mortgage fraud.
Oh, so, just the tip of the iceberg.
2 different states.
Yeah.
Virginia is the other one.
Yeah. And over a period of years. So we're not talking about this one-time thing that maybe we're talking about more than once and over a period of years. So she knew what she was doing. I have a question now, and it's related to this, but this is what's been floating in my mind. And John, in particular, I'd love to hear your input on this. So I don't think there's any question that there is corruption in our judicial system. Okay, we were just talking about that. Everybody was in agreement on that. How high does that corruption go? Do you think it has reached the Supreme Court? And if
yes.
so, what is keeping
Without
I'm
us,
afraid
or
so.
are we at the place already, John, that I imagine, and you know this better than I do, but I imagine what the situation is in Brazil with the corrupt high court there and what has been happening. And it's frightening to me to think that could happen in the US. And I wonder
Okay.
how corrupted our Supreme Court is.
All right. Now, just a two question. I'll get first off. Okay, the high in the courts here, the high justice here in Brazil, he basically is ruling this country.
Right.
What he says, Lula does, and Lula's not been doing anything at all. I mean, nothing's been done in this country.
Mhm.
It's just that they sit on the back burner. China comes in here, they get their graft from China. China leaves. It's been more or less like that. They really haven't been bothered. Russia's not been bothering here with Brazil because, for other reasons, they're elsewhere and they're in Nicaragua and other communist countries. But last week, I was with the guys from the embassy again, and I did a lot of asking these people. Without a shadow of a doubt, we have agreement. This is not only from U.S. Embassy, this is from other embassies too. Guaranteed that the judicial, our top justices in the Supreme Court are corrupted. He said, I might have 2 justices that are not corrupted out of all of them.
And who would you think those are? Those 2?
Thomas would be one of them, and the other one would be what's his name?
Alito?
Alito, yes, Alito.
Yeah.
Alito and Thomas would be the 2 that are not corrupted. Because what you have to stop with, my father was a judge. He was a Supreme Court judge. And point behind it was I sat there many a time listening to him talk. I've talked to him before, other judges. I mean, judges are commonplace to me. And how they thought they think that they're God, just like doctors think that they're God over patients and stuff like that too. They have that mental capacity. Once they put that robe on and they're sitting high up on that bench, looking down at everybody, just to begin with, before they even say one word, or they drop that gavel. I mean, I've sat in that seat before too, and let me tell you, you're sitting up high here. It's kind of like, wow. I'm sitting I'm on the second level diving board up here, and all these little plebes down here. In other words, people can't rush you because you're too high up. You've got a bailiff right to one side, and it's just the point of you feel protected and you feel powerful. And the point behind that is that somehow or another, this is all interconnected with Epstein. There's points that are figures that are being pointed to by Roberts. Roberts is being pointed to as being at Epstein's Island. He's one of them. A couple of the others, Amy Coney Barrett, I don't know. She maybe got flipped off someplace along the line, but it's impossible for me to stop and see or think how some of these judges can actually look at the way the leftists are thinking and side with them, because that is not what the Constitution says. I mean, no matter how you try to twist it, you can't twist it from the truth. You can try to bend it a little bit, which they do. All lawyers try to get creative, but they're corrupted.
Well, that's
the thing is,
gone too far.
The thing is, you can either be corrupted through benefits that someone is promising you, or through threats. And I kind of think with Amy Coney Barrett, it might be the threats. Remember how her house was surrounded before?
Amy Coney Barrett is through threats by bodily harm and family harm. Kavanaugh is through threats. I mean, Kavanaugh's nothing wrong with Kavanaugh. And with Roberts, I do believe the guys tell me that he has something to do with Epstein's Island.
Yeah, that one sounds more like benefits there.
And that's benefits. So there's 3 of supposedly the goodness.
Okay, so with Sotomayor and Jackson and who's the other one? Kagan,
yeah.
So corruption there, or are they just so left-leaning they don't have to try and corrupt them?
Those really, their names were really not brought up. They're considered leftists. Whether they're compromised or not, I don't think they had anything to do with Epstein's Island. As far as being corrupt, holy knows. I just think they're leftists. But it's the good guys, the Republicans, the ones that the conservative ones are the ones that have the problems, is because of their compromise. They did a good job on Kavanaugh. They showed up at his front door, literally. That is awful scary. That is awful scary. Think of somebody showing up at your front door and you go like, hey, I'm the Supreme Court judge. Where's my protection? Where's the law? Where's everybody protecting me? And somebody tells you. Let's put it this way. When I worked out in the field as a field agent, there's one thing that scares the living hell out of anybody. If I would walk up to you, Dave, back in the day, back 30 years ago, and I walked up to you and I put my badge right in front of your face, 1 inch away from your nose, and I told you, you will not bother getting in my way, or you'll never see your wife and your daughter again. I can promise you that.
Probably move out of your way.
I can say that. I could say that back in the day, and agents can say those things and get away with it. Might not mean that they're going to do it, but when you're standing there with a Fed in front of you with a badge and a gun, that is big trouble. Big trouble. You don't know whether to take them at their word or not. You'd rather take them at their word. Because who are you going to tell? If I was a regular police officer, you're going to go ahead and call the chief of police up or the sergeant or lieutenant or the captain and say, hey, look, your guy did this, that, and the other. Boom, I'm out of work. But with the feds, who are you going to call? Oh, one of your agents just threatened to kill me and my daughter. They'll say, well, come down and fill out paperwork. Then you're going to start to find out yourself you're going to be followed everywhere you go from that moment on.
And what makes that particularly heinous is even if you could say for yourself, you know what, I'm ready to go and I'm not going to be afraid of you, but there's still your kid and your wife. Or for me, it would be, other family members being traumatized. And that's where they usually get a lot of people is I can't think of putting the innocent ones in my world that I love so dearly. I can't think of putting them in that place.
They already they threatened your
You saw what they did with Flynn. They were going after Flynn's kid. They were going to put him in jail. And so he said, okay, I'll confess. It's me. Put me in jail. Don't put my son in jail. That's what happened. That's how they flipped him.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move over to California to where Andrew is.
What do you want to talk about?
I hate to, but I gotta go, guys. I've got my daughter is giving me a belated Mother's Day dinner. So.
Oh, good deal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost done already.
I'm gonna go join her. Good to see you guys.
Bye-bye,
All right, take care.
Bye. All right. So remember when I said a while back that I predicted that California would eventually start becoming more conservative. Well, this is an article about what Gavin's doing. He's trying to fix a $12 billion deficit or a hole in the budget, and he's going to start cutting things. And I said a long time ago, there's going to be a point where they can't tax the people anymore because they won't go for it. And companies and things are going to start leaving. And this is when I lived in California that I said all this. And their revenues are going to start dropping. And it's going to be to a point where they're going to have to either become more conservative, which means start watching what you're spending and maybe cut a few things, which, from the liberal point of view, you don't cut programs. You just find other creative ways of paying for it. And sometimes they're not always the right way. So anyway, Governor Newsom proposed that he's going to eliminate health care coverage for certain drugs used for weight loss in January of 2026. That's a whole year away, of course. And that alone would save the state $680 million in the next 2 years. But some of the things that are really getting people upset, we'll go to the top here where Newsom says he's going to freeze the enrollment of low-income adult immigrants without legal status. Well, that's kind of a given. That means they were given money to people who really didn't qualify to start with. So that's money going out of the budget. So the other thing is on eligible adults, and this is all about health care. Now they're going to make it mandatory that you pay $100 monthly premium to get that health care. So, you're going to get a lot of backlash about that because that's almost what a conservative do. You go along and start cutting things. But that one's really small because over the next 4 years, it'll only save $4.5 billion. So some of the big ones is he wants to stop paying the revenues from the tobacco industry, which has dropped about 40% since 2017 till about 24. And that would mean if they drop doing that, then they're not going to be paying for dental, family planning, and women's health providers will all be cut. So gets rid of these revenues. And that proposal will save about $500 million a year. So, that's cutting into the California Planned Parenthood, which, that there's going to be all sorts of hell to pay for that. California does not like that, I know.
Well,
sure.
something. This is a man that wants to run for president in 28. Can you believe that?
But that's what I'm kind of getting at is there's two sides to this. It's a more conservative point of view and an approach, but at the same time, he has no choice. They got to do something. Because they're upside down. But the other thing is, it makes him a little more appealing to a broader audience. I mean, so he would not only these actions would appeal to some of the conservative people, not just in California, but he could boast those. If he reduces all these things and it's successful and they make it work, by the time he's campaigning, that's going to be one of his campaign things. He's going to be saying, "Look, I helped do this, and I reduced that, and I cut spending there," and
people look.
Saying?
Dave, I agree with you what you're saying. Okay, sounds like you're on the right track. But here's the thing: there's too many people here in California that would disagree that Newsom would be a good president. I mean, look at us. Look at the people here. I mean, there's no water in the valley. There's no water in LA.
Oh, I know.
Even though Trump tried to get it in. And yet he's saying everything's fine. We're so deep in a hole in this state, it's unbelievable, and yet he's still governor. How, I don't understand that. And then we got old Bass over there. How is she still in office? Because the voting system in this state is rigged. That's all there is to it. There's no other possible explanation for what is happening in this state. How do you explain that, Dave? You can't.
Well, I don't. I'm just telling you a narrow point of view that I've noticed that and if he is running, that would be some of the reasoning behind it. I don't think he has a chance.
I don't think so either.
But
he ain't got no snowball chance in hell.
Yeah, you just.
Hey, why would you vote for AOC or maybe Maxine Waters? She'll do a better job, huh?
Right.
AOC's New York.
There's so much crap going on in California. I tell you,
it's a mess down here. It's really a terrible mess. I agree with you, Dave. I agree. Well, listen, I hate to cut this short, but I'm getting uncomfortable here. My arms are getting uncomfortable. I got to get rolling here. Okay, guys?
All right.
Okay, well, I'm going to show this real quick, and you can go ahead and go out, but this is all for you.
Yeah, okay. All right, we'll catch you guys later. Right. Bye, everybody.
All righty.
All right.
Uh-oh, no sound.
Fortunate for you, obviously, but you're hearing rumbling. The rumblings in the state of California. You have the last house standing on Malibu Beach. It was singed by the fires. It was not leveled. Very fortunate for you, obviously. But you're hearing rumblings now. Those beaches in Malibu, including your house potentially, may be taken by the government under eminent domain. And it's just rumblings and rumors and so forth. But that's very concerning.
The houses
what are you hearing?
I got a phone call yesterday from a guy that sells trillions with a T of insurance premiums per year worldwide. He's actually covering my home, okay, and along with a 15,000 unit portfolio that we cover with him. And he says, Grant, are you hearing anything about eminent domain on the coastline? And I said, no, I haven't heard that yet. What are you talking about? And he's like, we're hearing the first rumblings from property owners that are trying to get covered that nobody can understand. Why is nothing being done? Why is the beach not being picked up? Why haven't the bore samplings and environmental stuff been done? Why are only 4 permits been approved in 4 months? And those 4 permits, by the way, Steve, were done before the fires. So they were already in place.
Ooh, yeah.
And the talk is now that the state of California is planning to seize the coastline in Malibu.
So
Now here is a funny guy, one of my favorites, and if he's not
The
all
rumblings in the state of California. You have the
Well, I think that pretty much got the message out that California is still playing games with the fires.
yes, it was playing again in the background.
Yeah.
I had to shut it off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, intimate. You know, if you remember those shots, now he was saying something about, or Andrew was saying something about Malibu, but if you remember where the fires were up the coast, there's a section where it's all beach. It's public beach, but yet these people's houses are right up on the beach, and the PCH highway goes on the other side of them. So their houses that all burned, they're kind of like a little island, okay, between the road and the beach. Now, it would be better, just, you know, in some people's idea, that strip would just be cleared out and returned to beachfront for the public, rather than building these houses and having all the other problems they've had. They've had problems with houses falling into the water. They've had umpteen noodles of people fighting over beach area because the people that own the houses feel that they own the beach right there in front of their house. So, well, I mean, I know the area really well.
Well, by law, Dave, it's like in Florida. Florida is surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of America now, all the way around. And what it basically is it's the high tide line is where your property begins. If you're beachfront,
yeah, that makes sense.
It's a high tide line. So in other words, if the high tide line comes right up, in other words, if you've got a stairway going all the way down to the bottom, and your bottom stair is behind the rock wall, and that the high tide line comes up to that bottom step, then there is no public access.
Yeah.
In Florida, it's different. It's got all beach.
Well, yeah, because it's how do you get there, especially when you got 3 blocks worth of houses and no parking, and so people would literally have to hike around all these houses to get to that part of the beach. But no, I get it. You know, it's
it's
one of those tough things. But it doesn't stop the fact that these people own this. They bought it. They've got money invested in it. I know that when intimate domain happens, it's not always. They don't always just take it and you don't get any money for it. You know, I believe that they have to give them market value.
Yeah, that's what it should. If they do anything, you should give market value, and possibly because people, makes no difference where you live in this country. A prime real estate is waterfront, and whether it's on top of a cliff overlooking the ocean, or whether it's down at the bottom on the beach, it's the view that people go for. So maybe they can find some area further. California's got a big long coast, so maybe people could move another 50 or 100 miles north or 100 miles south from where they are, just so they can be able to get a view. But it's at top of the mountain, so it's on top of the rock formations as opposed to down at the bottom.
Yeah. Well, I think we pretty much covered everything. Got everything off that I had back here in the back. So, is there anything else that you would like to say before we cut out of here?
Not much I can. Not much. Things have been, like I said. Well, the only thing I want to, get out there, and the point of it is to stay focused. This is not going to be easy, and things are, like I said, they're happening. The wheels are turning. Patience. These people the bad guys are going down. We're not going to get everybody. We're going to get at least 50% of them. Certain people they really want bad. The ones that are top of their list, Adam Schiff is, ironically, he is right there at number one. He is the one that everybody wants the most because they've said that he is the most pathetic liar that has ever come across in 250 years of America. He is the worst politician liar ever was. They want him first. So in other words, you can look at him going down, and they want Letitia James. So those two people we can look forward to.
Well, I look forward to that happening anyway. So.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see Fauci take this.
Yeah, the whole.
I want to see Fauci. Yeah. So we'll just
have to see, guys.
We need to get focused.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, everybody. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Check out John's channel, and we'll see you on the next one.